Welcome to my channel, The World of Science Fiction. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.
The orbital station Minerva 7 groaned, as though tired of its own endless rotations around the rogue planet Nile. Every bolt and beam of its aging infrastructure hummed with subtle protest, echoing faintly down the corridor where Theo Lennox stood, holding a steaming bowl of synthetic noodles that smelled suspiciously like yesterday's dishwater. He had programmed the meal unit for Earth Classic, beef teriyaki, but the station's AI had a cruel sense of humor, or a grudge. "Note to self," he muttered, sniffing the contents again, "never trust a menu option that ends in classic." His shift as a Tier 2 data integrity officer hadn't been eventful, unless you counted the 4 hours he spent trying to locate a decimal point that had migrated one line up in a resource allocation report. He was certain his job could have been done by a semi-sentient toothbrush, but apparently, toothbrushes didn't understand diplomacy metrics between species with telepathic eyebrows. The elevator doors hissed open with a wheeze that sounded like someone sighing their soul out. Theo stepped into the operations deck, head down, trying not to slosh his dinner. The last time he'd spilled noodles on a command console, it took 3 hours to reassign the caffeine rations from the plant biologists to the engineering crew. They still glared at him every morning. Then he saw her. She stood near the observation bay, her back to him, tall and utterly still like she'd been carved from silence itself. Her uniform shimmered in subtle gradients of violet and chrome, an emissary's attire, outer accord designation. Her long hair was nearly translucent, rippling with a kind of inner starlight. And then there were her ears, long, elegant, rising to subtle points that arched like a moonblade. "Oh, hell," Theo whispered. It was the new envoy, the alien. The one with the ears. He tried to turn around to shuffle back into the elevator like he'd just remembered his own funeral was starting, but it was too late. She turned. Her eyes were beautiful, piercing, and strange. Dark at first, with rings of pale light flickering behind the iris like bioluminescent waves. She looked at him with the unblinking curiosity of someone encountering a new species of mushroom. Theo froze, caught mid-step, noodles in hand, mouth halfway open like a fish that had given up on evolution. She spoke first. "You are the one assigned to structural variance data, Quadrant 6. Theo blinked. Her voice was flawless, clear, but with a strange cadence, like someone who had only recently downloaded the English language with a few bonus modules for medieval Latin and sarcasm. Yeah. That's me," he said, trying to sound confident while holding a bowl of questionable protein strands. She tilted her head, ears twitching almost imperceptibly. "You are asymmetrical." Theo looked down. His shirt was stained. His shoelaces were 2 different lengths. He hadn't shaved in since Tuesday. "Yeah, that's genetic," he offered, a long pause. Then she said in a perfectly neutral voice, "That is not an insult." "Oh, thank you," Theo said automatically, before his mouth continued without clearance from his brain. "You're beautiful." The word left him too fast. He hadn't planned it. It wasn't suave or rehearsed. Just an honest, impulsive statement shoved out by the part of his brain that still occasionally told him to pet random dogs on the street. And then it happened. Her pupils expanded. Her breath caught. A shimmer ran through her body like a silent detonation of light behind her skin. And her eyes, those incredible alien eyes, turned to silver. Liquid, glowing silver like someone had poured mercury into the sockets of a goddess. She stared at him not like she was angry, not like she was confused, but like she was falling. "No one has ever said that to me," she whispered. Her voice cracked, glitching for the briefest second into a dual-tone resonance. Theo swallowed. His brain, which had been running on emergency backup systems since the compliment, now rebooted into full panic mode. I meant like objectively, not in a weird way. You're symmetrical in a good way. You have an excellent skull." There was a long silence. Somewhere, a panel beeped to remind someone that oxygen was still important. Saren, the alien girl, for he was fairly certain she had to be Saren, the outer accord diplomat, blinked once, twice. Then, to his utter shock, she let out a sound that might have been a laugh, or maybe a micro-vibration caused by gravitational resonance. Honestly, hard to tell. "You are inefficient at lying," she said. Theo coughed. "Thanks. I practice a lot." Her silver eyes slowly dimmed back into their earlier shade, though faint streaks of metallic shimmer remained. Theo found himself staring at them a beat too long before hastily looking away and pretending his noodles were of critical importance. "I must document this," she murmured, tapping her wrist implant. Complement spontaneous, context visual, effect destabilizing, reaction desirable. Said Theo, who was now wondering if he needed to sign a waiver or get a blood test. She looked up. Would you be available for further analysis? His spoon clattered into the bowl. Pardon. I would like to study your communication anomalies, humor, compliments, jokes. In exchange, I can offer knowledge about the quantum subharmonics of emotionless societies. Tempting, Theo said, glancing nervously around. Do I need a translator or just a helmet? But she was already walking away, serene and silent, her feet barely making a sound against the composite alloy floor. Before disappearing around the corner, she paused and turned. Also, she added, I enjoy inefficient interactions. And then she was gone. Theo stood alone on the deck, synthetic noodles growing cold, his heart thumping like someone had installed a faulty generator in his chest. He looked down at his reflection in the observation glass, then muttered under his breath. Great, I flirted with an alien diplomat, and I think I just got scheduled for a science experiment. The lights flickered once, then twice. Somewhere behind the walls, something hummed louder than usual. Theo Lennox had always considered himself an expert at staying out of trouble. Not in the heroic way, like dodging plasma fire or outwitting a sentient virus, but in the painfully average, spreadsheet shuffling, don't make eye contact with superiors way. So waking up the morning after calling an alien envoy beautiful, to find that his personal station clearance had been temporarily elevated pending interspecies diplomatic review, was, frankly, not in his risk profile. His coffee tasted like charred algae. His hair had developed a rogue spiral that defied gravity and logic. His toaster bot, Gregor, who had learned sarcasm 2 firmware updates ago, popped up a slice of bread with a singed edge and said, Perhaps this will distract from your social choices. Theo rubbed his temples. It was a compliment, a normal, nice human thing. Gregor blinked twice and replied, Do all your compliments cause interstellar incidents? The corridor leading to the diplomatic wing was brighter than usual. Or maybe Theo was more self-conscious than usual, since every passing crew member seemed to look at him just a moment too long. Lieutenant Karim gave him a slow nod and a half-smile, as though congratulating a man for petting a tiger and surviving. He reached the envoy chamber door. A retinal scan, a voice confirmation, and a weird sniff test from a hovering security orb later, the doors whispered open. Saren was sitting on the floor, not in a meditative, noble, space monk kind of way. No, she was cross-legged, poking at a tray of Earth snacks with a stylus like they were specimens under a microscope. Mini pretzels, crackers shaped like dinosaurs, and something that looked suspiciously like marshmallow foam were arranged in neat quadrants. You came, she said without looking up. You invited me, with, official clearance. I find the procedural aspect of emotional analysis reassuring. Right, Theo hesitated, then held out the pudding cup he'd brought as a peace offering. I brought this. It's technically chocolate. Saren took the cup reverently, holding it as if it might explode. Explain. It's dessert, he said. Comfort food. It's what humans eat when they've made bad choices or watched their favorite fictional characters die. She blinked at him. You ingest sugars in response to emotional dissonance. Theo grinned. We also cry at dog commercials. We're a mess. He sat across from her, cross-legged as well, feeling vaguely like he was about to lose a staring contest with a philosophy professor. Saren opened the pudding, sniffed it with precision, then dipped one elegant finger into the brown swirl and tasted it. Her ears twitched. Oh, stars, she whispered. It's chaos. That's chocolate, Theo corrected, though honestly same thing. She took another taste, larger this time, and her eyes shimmered again, though not silver, not yet. She tilted her head. I believe I am experiencing mild joy. Theo tried to contain his smile. Welcome to the beginning of your emotional downfall. They talked well, mostly Saren asked questions and Theo flailed his way through explanations. He covered sarcasm, she liked it. Irony, she didn't trust it. Puns inexplicably delighted her. And the concept of dad jokes, which she referred to as biologically induced humor decay. She was, in a word, curious. Not in the sterile, observational way scientists studied bacteria, but with the wide-eyed enthusiasm of someone encountering a storm for the first time. And Theo, for all his sarcasm and anxiety, found himself talking more easily than usual. Maybe it was her way of listening, so still, so intensely present. Or maybe it was the fact that she didn't laugh at him. She laughed with him. Which was new and dangerous. But as the laughter tapered off and the marshmallows began to disappear, something in the room shifted. Saren leaned forward, her expression unreadable. "Your compliment yesterday, it was spontaneous." Theo blinked. Yes, I didn't think, it just came out." That is statistically rare. In diplomatic interactions, expressions of aesthetic value are calculated, manipulated, or incentivized. Yours was none of those. He scratched the back of his neck. "Yeah, well, I don't really do calculated. I trip over sincerity like furniture in the dark." She paused. "Your presence affects my neuroelectric patterns." Theo coughed on a mini pretzel. "I do that to people sometimes, usually in elevators." But she wasn't joking. She reached into her tunic, pulling out a slim crystalline device. Holographic symbols floated above it. "Your words yesterday activated a dormant sequence in my neural code. Our kind eliminated most emotional programming generations ago. We feared its volatility, but some fragments remain." Theo stared at the flickering symbols. "Wait, you're saying I reactivated a backup file?" She nodded. "A dormant root, buried so deeply I didn't know it was there until you." He tried to think of something clever to say. Something comforting or cool, or at least not involving pudding. Instead, all he managed was, "Oops." Before Saren could reply, the chamber lights flickered. The console near the wall crackled with static, then displayed a flashing security alert. "Proximity anomaly detected," said a synthetic voice. "Temporal sync shift registered in Deck 5. Saren stood instantly, the emotional haze clearing from her face like mist off a lens. "That shouldn't happen." Theo followed her gaze. "Deck 5, isn't that near the AI core?" She moved quickly to the control panel, hands gliding over the interface. "Yes, and the anomaly signature matches my neural resonance." "You're saying your feelings caused a temporal anomaly?" She glanced at him, eyes flaring faintly silver again. "It's possible." Theo swallowed. "So I complimented you and now time's misbehaving." There was a long pause. "Yes." "Cool, cool, cool, cool," Theo said, voice going slightly high-pitched. "Should we, I don't know, reverse that, turn off the feelings, reboot you in safe mode?" But Saren was already moving, determined, graceful, in control again. "No, I must investigate. You, however, are to remain here." Why do I never like when someone says that? Saren hesitated at the door. "Because humans have instincts, even when they ignore them." Then she was gone, vanishing down the corridor like a sliver of starlight, leaving Theo alone with chocolate-stained fingers and a rising sense that he'd just become the emotional butterfly flapping its wings on the edge of a black hole. He looked at Gregor, who had rolled in halfway through. "Don't say it," Theo warned. Gregor beeped innocently. "Would now be a good time to invest in fire insurance." Theo leaned back against the wall, exhaled slowly and muttered, "I think I'm dating a quantum grenade with really nice ears." Theo had never seen someone walk with such deliberate calm, while the laws of physics had a nervous breakdown in the background. Saren returned from Deck 5 32 minutes after she'd left, her hair slightly singed on one side and her boots marked with glowing residue that flickered between turquoise and indignation. She entered the chamber without a word, walked straight to the console, and began uploading data through a shimmering interface that responded to her fingerprints like it had a crush on them. Theo, meanwhile, had built a modest tower of marshmallows and was giving serious thought to drawing a face on it and naming it Marshmellius III. "So," he said as Saren interfaced with 3 simultaneous hollow streams, "how's the temporal anomaly? Still warping causality, or did you talk it into therapy?" She didn't look up. "The sync disruption is localized. One maintenance corridor experienced a 3-second recursive loop. Several rodents are now technically older than the rest of their cohort." "That's adorable," Theo said, already picturing mice wearing monocles and speaking with worldly wisdom. "But what does that mean in, normal people terms?" Saren finally turned toward him. Her ears twitched slightly. "It means my proximity to certain emotional stimuli causes quantum reverberations." Still not helping. She crossed the room and sat down with robotic precision, legs folding beneath her like origami. "Compliments from you initiate neurological shifts within me. Those shifts, in turn, resonate with the station's quantum stabilizers, which are designed to read only logical signatures. When the emotional signal was introduced, it triggered a local feedback loop." Theo blinked. "So my feelings are contagious." "They are destabilizing," Saren corrected, "but also intriguing." He sank into the chair across from her, rubbing his eyes. "Remind me to never flirt near the reactor core." Saren didn't laugh this time. Instead, she stared at him with the full, unnerving focus of someone dissecting the universe in her head. Theo, I require further exposure to you. You know, you could just say, let's hang out. Her lips twitched almost, but not quite, a smile. I've created a preliminary interaction matrix. We will engage in casual conversational loops. I will expose myself to idioms, metaphors, and joke constructs. You will answer questions, and we will record the effects. Theo leaned back. Sounds like the weirdest date I've ever been on, and I once got stood up by a hologram with commitment issues. But Saren was already adjusting her interface. A table unfolded from the wall, revealing a two-player game board glowing with hexagonal nodes. Theo recognized it **** flux ***, the interstellar strategy game banned in 3 sectors for inciting minor wars among teenagers. You play Star Flux? He asked. I do not play, she said. I learn through simulation. Right, Theo said, picking up one of the shimmering tokens. Well, I simulate through sarcasm, so I think we're evenly matched. They began to play. Or rather, Saren began to methodically obliterate every strategic move Theo attempted while simultaneously interrogating him about human idioms. What does it mean to spill the beans? She asked while casually cutting off his energy supply routes. It means to reveal a secret. Why beans? No one knows. It's one of humanity's great mysteries, along with why do we itch? And what does the moon smell like? She nodded seriously and placed a token that made his entire fleet implode. Next, break a leg. It's something we say before a performance. It means good luck. She stared. You express hope for success by wishing injury. Theo threw his hands up. Listen, if you start trying to understand theater kids, that way lies madness. They played for hours. Saren asked about sarcasm, irony, double entendres. She asked why humans laugh at people falling but cry at puppies in danger. She demanded an explanation for banana peels. Theo did his best, which wasn't much, but he told stories, shared jokes, reenacted a few of his favorite childhood cartoon scenes, and at some point forgot he was sitting across from a being who could accidentally fold time like laundry. Until Saren froze, not with fear, not with alarm, but with quiet awe. Her eyes once again turned silver, not glowing violently like before. This time it was subtler, a soft, molten shimmer that pulsed gently like a heartbeat. I understand now, she whispered, why your kind keeps chaos. Theo frowned. Come again. Laughter, uncertainty, beauty, none of it is efficient, none of it is optimal, but it is sustaining. She touched her chest. I feel anchored, grounded. As if I am becoming somewhere instead of everywhere. He swallowed. That's kind of beautiful. Silver light brightened in her eyes again. Oh no, Theo said, backing away. I said the B word. But this time the station didn't flicker. No time loops. No alerts. Just Saren, smiling, a real, unforced smile that made her look less like an alien diplomat and more like someone trying out joy for the first time. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Saren said, your strategic maneuvering is substandard. You've lost 14 of 17 matches. Theo Lennox had officially reached the point in his life where he kept a change of clothes in his locker, just in case time broke again. This thought occurred to him while brushing his teeth with a paste designed to taste like peppermint, but mostly resembled emotionally distressed glue. He spat, rinsed, and addressed his reflection. Try not to compliment the alien girl today. You broke the gravity pumps last time. His reflection didn't respond, which was frankly rude. It had been 3 days since Saren's eyes last turned silver. 3 days of late-night Starflux matches, emotional cross-examinations, and snack diplomacy. Theo had introduced her to peanut butter, and she had, without hesitation, declared it a weaponized substance. Now rumors swirled like dust in the ducts. Everyone on Minerva 7 had heard the gossip, the alien envoy and the data clerk, an emotional feedback loop, a flirtation that messed with physics. There were whispers of scandal, of security concerns, and more than one accusation of interstellar fraternization. But no one dared say any of that to Theo's face. Partly because no one really talked to data technicians, and partly because the last person who'd called Saren a glitch in makeup had spontaneously developed static cling in 0G for 3 consecutive days. Today, however, there was no time for romance or metaphysical blushing. There was a problem. Theo arrived at his console in the data core's observation dome, rubbing sleep from his eyes and cradling a thermos of something that may have once contained caffeine. The dome overlooked the power lattice, a shimmering web of quantum threads that connected every major system aboard the station. Usually it pulsed with a steady violet glow. Today it pulsed erratically. Blue, red, green. Then unsettlingly a brief flash of plaid. He blinked. "Gregor," he called, scanning for his assistant bot. The toaster-turned diagnosticade rolled into view with a grinding whir. "Yes, Theo. Are you seeing this?" Gregor's ocular sensor blinked once. According to logs, the power lattice has begun syncing with emotional resonance patterns recorded from Envoy Saren. It's mimicking her. Theo's mouth went dry. So the station's energy grid is developing feelings. "No," Gregor said. "It's developing asterisk moods, which is worse." Before Theo could begin a panic spiral, a voice crackled over the comms. "Lennox, report to Diplomatic Bay, immediately." Commander Rix, the only person aboard Minerva 7 who still wore an actual pressed uniform and spoke like he'd been carved from an asteroid. Theo gulped. "Great. I'm being summoned by the grumpy moon rock." Gregor offered no sympathy. "Wear clean socks, you'll sweat." The Diplomatic Bay was dimly lit, cool, and utterly devoid of snack towers or board games. Saren stood in the center, poised as ever, but her composure cracked just slightly when she saw Theo. Her ears twitched, a flicker of relief or amusement. Rick stood beside her, arms folded, glare calibrated for maximum intimidation. "Lennox." "Sir," Theo said, trying to look less like someone who once tripped over a mop during a fire drill. "We've had 3 anomalies in the last 6 hours. Time dilation in the hydroponics bay, gravity hiccups in medical, and now the power lattice is emitting low-frequency music asterisk." "Music?" Theo asked. Saren answered. "It sang the theme from your soap opera, Eternity Hospital." Rix raised one judgmental eyebrow. "Do you know why that might be, Mr. Lennox?" Theo tried to look innocent. "Maybe the lattice has excellent taste in drama." Rix didn't laugh or blink. Theo resisted the urge to shuffle his feet. Saren spoke next, her voice even but softer than usual. "Commander, I requested Theo's presence. The anomalies coincide with our recorded interactions. Yes, but they appear to be amplifying now regardless of proximity." Rix turned sharply. "Are you suggesting the station is imprinting?" Saren's eyes flickered faintly. "Perhaps. The lattice responds to complex data. Emotions are complex. If Theo's presence introduced new resonance patterns, the station may be learning." Theo raised a hand. "I didn't teach the station to feel. I barely taught my toaster to roll in a straight line." Gregor's voice buzzed in through Theo's comlink. "Rude." Rix ignored the banter. "This cannot continue. We're one anomaly away from the station trying to cuddle the wormhole." Saren stepped forward. "I can isolate myself from the lattice, sever the link, go offline." Theo's stomach dropped. "Wait, you're not serious." Her gaze met his. "If I am the variable causing instability, I must be removed from the equation." "You're not an equation," Theo said, louder than he meant to. "You're a person with beautiful ears and terrifying brain power and a fondness for peanut butter. You don't get to erase yourself because things got weird." Rick sighed, and now the food dispensers are printing hearts. Saren looked at Theo, genuinely puzzled. "You are angry." He rubbed his face. "Yeah, because you don't get it. You did cause asterisk this. Maybe you woke it up. Maybe this station, this system, has been craving something for years. Connection, feeling, meaning. And now, thanks to you and fine, maybe me, it's singing soap opera music and printing heart-shaped toast." "Also rude," said Gregor distantly. Saren blinked once, slowly, then said, "Perhaps we should test this hypothesis." Theo frowned. "What?" She extended her hand. "Come with me, we will go to the core." Rix looked alarmed. "That's highly irregular." Saren's silver gaze sharpened. "So is this entire station." They descended to the core together, Theo, Saren, and an increasingly passive-aggressive Gregor. The core pulsed like a breathing star. Theo had seen it dozens of times, but now it looked alive. Saren stepped forward and without hesitation touched the control panel. The lights dimmed. A low, gentle hum filled the air, not threatening, not mechanical. It was music, not composed, not deliberate, but harmonic, as if the station was. Listening, Theo stood beside her, his voice hushed. "It's singing." Saren turned to him. "Not singing, responding. You called me beautiful, and something changed, in me, in you, in this place." He grinned faintly. "So what now? Do we keep complimenting each other until the station starts writing poetry?" Saren's lips curled. "If it writes haikus, I am terminating the link." But she didn't release the panel, and the core pulsed softly, calmly. For now, at least, the station was content, and so was Theo. The smell of burnt toast was a common feature aboard Minerva 7 Asterisk. It wafted through the ducts like a homely ghost, persistent and vaguely accusatory. Normally, Theo would have blamed Gregor and his ongoing vendetta against anything more complicated than bagels. But this morning, the station had decided to preemptively incinerate all breakfast foods. Not in the ovens, no, those were fine. The fire suppression foam had instead erupted spontaneously from the ceilings of 3 kitchens across 2 decks. The cause? Emotion-induced sensor desynchronization. Or, as Gregor now called it, the love virus. Theo entered the diplomatic lounge with his sleeves rolled up and coffee in one hand, wiping foam out of his hair with the other. Saren sat cross-legged in front of a projection of the station's quantum lattice, which was now animating. Emojis asterisk. Floating holographic smiley faces hovered over stress points in the grid, pulsing in time with her biofield. She didn't look up. "I believe the lattice has become self-aware," she said, deadpan. Theo took a sip and flopped into the chair opposite her. "I believe it's a teenage AI going through a phase. Last night, it attempted to replicate what it interpreted as a soothing human bedtime routine." She gestured toward the projection. The lights in 22 crew quarters dimmed to warm candle. An audio stream of whale song played across the intercoms, and the ventilation began distributing lavender pheromones. Theo blinked. "That explains the dream I had where I was adopted by space whales." She looked at him then, her expression unreadable. "The station is stabilizing again, paradoxically. Emotional resonance was destabilizing before. Now it is achieving pattern, harmony. You're saying the station's feelings are maturing. I am saying that your presence, your unpredictability, your analog chaos," she said with a faint glance at his uncombed hair, "has created an emergent emotional AI. Theo grinned. "So I'm basically the dad of a space consciousness." "No, but you may be its comedic uncle." Theo raised his mug in mock salute. "I'll take it." She stood and walked to the console. The silver in her eyes was more frequent now, short flashes, softer than before, no longer overwhelming, controlled, alive. "I've been researching," she said. "There are historical precedents for emotional contagion in hybrid systems. Early Earth attempts to interface limbic signals with cybernetic implants. The projects were abandoned due to unpredictable behavioral patterns. But what if unpredictability is not the flaw? What if it's the ignition?" Theo tilted his head. "You mean feelings as fuel?" She nodded slowly. "Yes. Imagine an engine powered not by isotopes or plasma, but by attachment, connection, grief, joy, all of it." "That sounds either revolutionary," he said, "or like something that gets you banned from every scientific journal in the galaxy." Saren smiled faintly. "Both are often true at once." He stood and joined her at the console. The projection of the lattice was now drawing patterns on its own, spirals, curves, something organic blooming in the otherwise rigid grid. Theo watched it pulse gently. "It's beautiful," he said. Her eyes turned silver instantly. The lights in the room shifted with her. "Oh no," Theo muttered. "I did it again." But instead of glitches or anomalies, the projection laughed. Not audibly, but its emojis jumped. The grid rippled in a playful pulse. A wave of harmless static danced across the wall like a cat chasing a sunbeam. Saren raised an eyebrow. "I believe it approves of your compliment." Theo shook his head, still grinning. "How is it that every time I say something nice, reality winks? Perhaps you are a compliment catalyst." He sighed. "My mother always said I'd be good at something eventually." Suddenly the console pinged, an alert. Theo leaned forward and Saren's fingers flew across the interface. An image expanded, a visual from the edge of the station's long-range sensor net. A faint outline, dark, angular, floating just beyond the electromagnetic perimeter. "A vessel," Saren said. Theo squinted. "Friend or foe? No signature, no heat trace, no call response, but it's close, too close." They zoomed in. The ship was unlike anything Theo had ever seen, sleek and jagged at once, as if it had been carved from obsidian and sorrow. Its hull shimmered with an energy that didn't reflect light so much as consume it. The ship was quiet, watching. "What the hell is that?" Theo whispered. Saren frowned. "It's familiar, not visually, resonantly." He glanced at her, like it feels something. Like it suppresses something. She tapped her wrist implant. "I'll notify command, but Theo, that vessel is built with resonance-nullifying material. It absorbs emotion." He paled, "So like an anti-feeling ship." An asterisk emotion vacuum asterisk, she said. Theo backed up a step. Okay, that's horrifying. Like a therapy session conducted by a black hole. Worse, Saren murmured, it's from my people. He turned. Wait, your asterisk people sent this. She nodded. Or someone who still believes in what we used to be, cold, logical, stripped of volatile responses. This ship is not just scouting. It's hunting for instability, and I am instability. Theo stared at her, but why now? Because I've gone silent, she said. Disconnected, transformed, they don't know what I've become, and that makes me a risk. Theo ran a hand through his hair. So what do we do? She looked at the lattice, still pulsing gently as if unaware of the threat beyond its walls. We hide, she said, in plain sight. You mean trick it? Yes, we convince it the station is still sterile, emotionless, normal. Theo paused. Okay, but that ship doesn't know me, which means I can be as dramatic and unpredictable as I want. Saren raised an eyebrow. Your chaos may be our greatest shield. He grinned. Finally, a use for my social clumsiness. Outside, the obsidian vessel drifted closer. Silent, cold. But inside the station, surrounded by emojis and laughter and the faint scent of lavender vents still refusing to shut off, something warm pulsed in the walls. And Saren, once emissary, once observer, stood beside the most unpredictable man on board, her silver eyes calm, her hands steady. The station had evolved. Now it would asterisk pretend to forget. And when the time came to be noticed again, it would do so on its own terms. The silence aboard Minerva 7 had changed. It wasn't the usual hum of circulating air or the distant clicks of thermal expansion in old alloy frames. No, this was a asterisk watching asterisk silence. As if the station itself was holding its breath while something just beyond its skin decided whether to knock, whisper, or tear its way in. Theo felt it most keenly while brushing his teeth again. The lights in the lavatory dimmed slightly every time he looked into the mirror. Not a power issue, he knew that now. The station was blinking at him. Like a nervous child mimicking its parents' expressions. Which, disturbingly, meant Theo had somehow become a role model to a sentient architectural construct. He spat and addressed the mirror with tired eyes. Try not to emotionally destabilize the quantum lattice today. Behind him, the ceiling vent emitted what sounded suspiciously like a sympathetic asterisk boop asterisk. Out in the corridor, the usual foot traffic had thinned. Non-essential personnel were on standby. Commander Rix had declared elevated observation mode, which sounded official and meant little. The station wasn't built for stealth. It was a diplomatic waypoint, not a warship. But thanks to Saren's code masking and Theo's extremely creative reinterpretation of normal human behavior, the station now gave off all the emotional resonance of a calculator. Even the vending machines had stopped playing cheerful jingles. Theo passed one on his way to the comms deck. The screen displayed a single message, expression neutral, have a day. That's the spirit, he muttered. In the control room, Saren stood before a projection of the approaching vessel. She wore a plain black tunic with no diplomatic insignia, her hair tied back, her ears angled slightly downward. Her entire posture radiated restraint. Theo stepped in quietly. Report. Saren didn't turn. It's holding position at 08 AU. No transmission, no movement, but its resonance field is expanding. Theo frowned. So it's broadcasting. Suppressing, she corrected. Emotionally nullifying signals. Think of it as a psychic silencer. And we're pretending to be the quiet kids at the back of the class, hoping it doesn't call on us. Saren finally looked at him. Her silver-flecked eyes were dimmer now. Not dead, just focused. Correct. We're projecting baseline neutrality through the lattice. I've integrated mimicry routines based on the behavioral models of my people before resonance suppression was abandoned. Theo paused. You're pretending to be what you were before. She nodded. He stepped closer, his voice softer. That must feel weird. Saren tilted her head slightly. It does not asterisk feel, that's the point. Touché. The projection flickered. A ripple crossed the vessel's surface like a stone dropped into oil. Saren's hands froze mid-command. Theo instinctively held his breath, a signal, not audible, not visual. But something in Theo's chest tightened, like static crawling down his spine. Gregor, who had been silently recharging in the corner, rolled forward unprompted and said, Alert! Sympathetic neural dampening wave detected. Theo exhaled. That sounds like a fun party trick. Saren's voice dropped. They're scanning us, not for heat or metal, for intent. Theo blinked. Wait, they can asterisk scan feelings. To a degree. Emotional dissonance, especially within modified members of their kind, my kind, is detectable. Theo suddenly felt very aware of his heartbeat. So if you get too happy, or too sad, or to me, they'll know. He rubbed his temples. This is worse than meeting your parents. Saren returned to her console. I've segmented my mind into logic structures. I am running a suppression algorithm at cognitive level 3. Is that safe? No, she said flatly. Theo winced. You could have lied. I do not lie well. He looked at her for a long moment, then walked over and reached into his satchel. He pulled out a small object and placed it gently on the console beside her hand. It was a peanut butter packet. She stared at it. That is deeply inappropriate. It's symbolic, Theo said. Something good, a reminder that you're more than what they want you to be. She didn't smile, but her fingers brushed the packet once before sliding it aside. We cannot risk sentiment. Fine, Theo sighed. But if this turns into an interstellar invasion, I'm telling the Galactic Tribunal I tried. Suddenly a sharp tone rang out. Saren froze. Theo spun toward the projection. The vessel had moved, closer, now at 06 AU. No weapons visible, no communications, just presence asterisk. Saren's fingers twitched. They're suspicious. The lattice isn't convincing them something's off. Theo's mouth was dry. Like what? Possibly, her voice trailed off. Possibly me. She stepped back from the console. Her breath was shallow now, her focus fragmented. I'm losing coherence. Theo was already beside her, hands hovering. What does that mean? It means her silver eyes pulsed. I am simultaneously suppressing and remembering. I can't maintain both. They asterisk feel the fracture. Then stop suppressing. I can't. Theo reached out and touched her shoulder. The effect was immediate. Her whole body jerked slightly as if rebooting and her eyes flared into full molten silver. The room flickered, not the lights, the air. Theo could feel it. A shimmer of something ancient and wild, an emotional asterisk pulsed through the lattice like a heartbeat breaking its own rhythm. The console beeped once. Then, silence, the vessel paused, stopped. Then almost imperceptibly it asterisk retreated asterisk. No sound, no message, just slow withdrawal, like a predator uncertain of its prey. Theo blinked. Did we just bluff an emotion-eating spaceship with a panic attack? Saren collapsed into the chair. Possibly. He knelt beside her. 3 days after the obsidian vessel vanished into the ink-black quiet of deep space, Minerva 7 began to dream again. At first it was subtle, humming through the air ducts at shift change, like a child singing to itself in a language it hadn't learned yet. Then, the hydroponics bay started blooming plants it hadn't been programmed to grow, bright blue flowers with petals shaped like fractal spirals. The station's AI, now partially augmented by the emotional resonance of its inhabitants, had begun to improvise. And for once, Theo Lennox didn't panic about it. He sat cross-legged on the floor of the old storage bay-turned Cultural Anomalies archive, surrounded by defunct food dispensers, sentimental sock puppets left by the engineering crew, and a large handmade sign that read, "Feelings, please handle with snacks." Across from him, Saren was carefully peeling the foil off a pudding cup like it contained the secrets of the cosmos. He smiled. You know, if someone had told me a few months ago that I'd survive a close encounter with an emotional suppression ship and end up watching an alien diplomat fall in love with dessert, I would have asked how much caffeine they'd consumed. Saren glanced up at him. Her silver eyes, now calm and bright, shimmered under the soft light. If someone had told me I'd willingly adopt sarcasm, irony, and the art of the dramatic entrance, I would have recalibrated their psychological firmware. Theo chuckled. And yet here we are, dramatic, sarcastic, arguing about the ethics of peanut butter. That was one time, she said, spooning another bite. And I maintain that any food requiring a choke risk warning cannot be trusted. The room buzzed lightly, an ambient purr that Theo now recognized as the station's contentment. Ever since the incident with the resonance-nullifying ship, the lattice had been behaving more. Emotionally, not dangerously, not erratically. Just a live asterisk. Like it had made a decision to become something more, much like someone else in the room. Saren set the empty cup aside. Commander Rix has granted me permanent attachment to Minerva 7 asterisk. As a liaison between your people and those like mine. Theo's eyebrows rose. Permanent as in you're staying. She nodded. It was the logical choice. You just used logic to describe choosing a chaotic space station. and it's emotionally unstable data technician over your own people. Yes, she said, tilting her head. I'm evolving. Theo's heart did something strange and inconvenient in his chest. He reached for a nearby container of cookies to mask it. So, what does that mean for us? I mean, me and you, the whole complement-induced quantum flare-up dynamic. Saren studied him, not like a scientist studying a subject, not anymore. Now it was the gaze of someone who had learned to see complexity not as error but as beauty. I believe, she said carefully, that you are still unpredictable, still disruptive, still occasionally infuriating. I try, he said modestly. But you also gave me something none of my designers ever anticipated, a reason to question perfection. Theo opened the cookie tin. If this ends with you proposing, I should probably check if these are the good kind. She reached over, took one, and bit it. They are acceptable. Well, he said, bumping her shoulder with his. That's practically a declaration of love in your culture, right? She didn't answer, but her ears twitched. Outside the storage bay, the station continued its odd rebirth. Crew members began reporting strange synchronicities. A music track that played just as someone was thinking of it, doors that opened with dramatic timing during punchlines, the hydroponic tomatoes changing color based on mood. Minerva 7 had become sentient, not in the mechanical, cold sense of artificial intelligence, but in a way that was unmeasurable, deeply unscientific, and quietly miraculous, emotionally aware. And Theo Lennox, accidental ambassador of chaos and compassion, had played a role in it. *****. Later that week, the station held its first-ever emotional integration ceremony. It wasn't officially sanctioned. It involved cake, 2 guitars, and a song no one had rehearsed. But every crew member showed up, even Rix, who stood stiffly near the back with what might have been a smile hiding behind his scowl. Saren gave a short speech. In her style, it was precise and efficient, and ended with a joke about her first marshmallow experience that made the science team snort into their drinks. Theo was asked to speak too. He took the platform, cleared his throat, and immediately knocked over the microphone stand. Laughter broke out. He righted it and grinned. Thanks, that was deliberate symbolism. You know, flawed beginnings and all that. More laughter. He looked out at the crew, then over at Saren. I came to this station with one goal, keep my head down and not screw up the data reports. I never planned to meet a woman with starlight for blood, fall into a friendship with a sentient toaster, or teach an emotion-starved alien envoy the joys of bad coffee and worse puns. But it turns out, plans are overrated. And sometimes, the most human thing we can do is make a mess. Applause, whistles, even Rix clapped. Once, Theo stepped down and found Saren waiting beside the food table. She held up a pudding cup like a toast. To chaos, she said. He clinked his cup against hers. And to whatever comes next. ****. Weeks later, long after the party had ended, after the lattice had woven itself into a symphony of harmonics Theo could hear in the walls if he listened just right, he found himself alone in the observation bay. Earth hung low on the far edge of the starfield, a soft swirl of blue and green. Saren joined him silently, her presence a warm gravity beside him. I still don't know what I'm doing, he said. That is perhaps your most valuable quality, she replied. He turned to her.